Today I want to give a few reasons why I think I should not speak about feminism in Korea. So first off, I want to say these are some reasons why I think I shouldn't, and it's not to say that I never will. Freedom of speech is so goddamn important because it's the one freedom, it's the one human right that we have that can correct all other problems. Something like if you have racism, sexism, homophobia, whatever the problem is, we need freedom of speech to correct those things. Because how are we going to correct racism if nobody can talk about racism? If there's some law that says, well, we're not allowed to publish books about racism, you're not allowed to speak about racism, and the cost of that is that people, even people who are wrong, have to have the right to speak, because if you start to say, well, he's wrong, so he doesn't get to talk, then who's the arbiter of what's right and wrong and what's allowed to be spoken and not be spoken? And then you'll just have somebody who has the power to say who's allowed to speak and who's not allowed to speak, and then we can't have a marketplace of ideas and not allow the truth to really come out. That being said, I think anyone should be allowed to talk about anything they want at just about any time. Outside of yelling fire in a crowded theater, freedom of speech should be granted to anyone in the world, and it's super important that they do. That being said, I'm going to give a couple of reasons why I think I should not speak too much about feminism in Korea, but in the end I probably will make some videos about it. The first reason is I'm not a woman. Especially, I'm a white man. Now, there's something we call white privilege in America, and it's a very controversial issue because privilege is a weird word to use, but what they're trying to say is it's not that you get everything in the world for being a white man in America, but it is true that you get some advantages. And it's not that you get advantages per se, it's more that you don't have any disadvantages. My idea of the term white privilege in America is that nobody assumes anything about me. When they see a white male, I'm completely blank, I'm a clean slate, I'm completely vanilla. When somebody's going to give me a job interview, let's say I go in, let's say there's an Asian man, an Asian American man who goes in for a job interview. When somebody sees an Asian American man, whether it's conscious, and I'm sure most of the time it's subconscious, I kind of highly doubt that people have real conscious, well, I mean, maybe there's some, but I would say the majority of people don't have these conscious biases where they think consciously, this guy's Asian, so he must be good at math, or he must be very smart, or he must be not very creative. I'm sure these thoughts come around subconsciously, but when somebody sees an Asian man, probably myself included, there's some subconscious ideas there in your head which are, if he's Asian American, his parents are probably immigrants, which is not necessarily true. He's probably well educated. He went to a good university. He studied science or something. It's hard to put your finger on what these biases are, but they probably exist for most people seeing Asian men or anybody who's a minority, or if it's a woman, maybe they see a woman and they think, oh, she's not going to be very aggressive. There might even be conscious biases, she's in her 20s. Someday she might have a kid and then blah, blah. So there's all these biases against people who are not white males. The white privilege in America is not that people come up to me and go, here's a job, here's an opportunity, here's something you could do. The privilege is more like they just see me and they have no expectations. I mean they have no assumptions about me. They just think, average, there's the thing. I can prove myself only based on my merits. So that's white privilege in America. It's subtle and it's not exactly sure where it is. White privilege in Korea is much different. I call it direct privilege. People openly tell me that they like me because I'm a foreigner. People openly give me sobis because I'm a foreigner. People say I think you're interesting because you're a foreigner. People treat me differently openly. It's not subconscious, it's 100% conscious. And people are nicer to me when I'm in Korea because I'm a foreigner. I have this extreme privilege when I'm in Korea. And any foreigner that's in Korea is lying if they don't tell you that they like that to some degree. I enjoy it. I don't feel good that I enjoy it, but I do enjoy it when people are nice to me. Doesn't everyone enjoy when people are nice to them? So because of this, it's a little harder for me to understand the difficulties of someone having a bias against me. It happens to me very rarely, if ever. I can't think of any time someone had a bias against me. It's happened a couple times, but anyway, it's not a big deal. But the point is, if I've never lived any kind of discrimination, in fact, if I've lived the exact opposite, where people are actually kind to me and nice to me, it's hard for me to understand the problems of being a Korean woman. Now, that's not to say that I can never understand any of the problems of being a Korean woman. And it's especially not to say that I should never talk about feminism because, I just don't know it at all. There are certain things that I feel like I can understand pretty well, and there are other things that I probably couldn't understand at all. Like, for example, I'm probably able to understand what it's like to not get a job. Like, if a woman doesn't get a job because she's a woman, I think I can kind of imagine and put myself in the shoes of that person because many times I haven't gotten a job. I can't know exactly what it feels like to not know exactly if it's because of my gender or not because of my gender. Maybe that's a real tearing pain that is really annoying for some women, where it's like, did I not get that job because of my merit, because I just wasn't good enough? Or did I not get that job because women aren't generally, bankers, or whatever the job is that's male dominated? And they go, well, the guy interviewing me was a man and he just wants other men there because it makes him more comfortable. But that insecurity, that unknowing of the reason why I didn't get the job, I can't really understand that well. But that's one of the things that's probably a little more easy for me to put myself in the shoes of not getting a job. There are other things that I think feminists in Korea and in America are fighting for, which is, not having skeezy dudes stare at them in the street, not having dudes on a subway stand so close to you just to be kind of weird, not having a, mole camera. Like, these are all things that I could try to imagine. But because I don't live in that world, and because women live in that world all the time, from what I imagine, it's hard for me to feel. I can understand the problems, but it's hard for me to feel exactly how bad that feels. And because of that, when I speak about those things, it's not that I should never speak about those things and I'm not allowed to speak about those things. It's just that I can't feel it quite the same way. And I have to admit that. And it makes it hard for me to make, I don't want to say judgments about that, but it's hard for me to understand exactly what to do about those problems or how deep those problems are for people who do experience those problems. I've got most of my viewers, I think about 70% are men. I know when they're watching this video, there's going to be a bunch of guys just thinking like, here's this, feminist shill who's just saying what women want to hear and he's part of the program. It's not that at all. I hope I've made my YouTube videos enough that I have a brand, which is I'm the honest guy who's telling it like it is. And that's what I'm trying to do right now. A good way to imagine it, if you're a man, is think about being a black man in America. Now, it's hard for you to understand because you've never lived their life. I mean, really, if you're a black man in America, from what I've heard, I'm not a black man, so I've never done it, you're kind of seen as a very threatening person, and people are just naturally scared of you no matter what you do, no matter how nicely you try to tiptoe around it. There's a really good link, I'm going to put it in the show notes, about Barack Obama. And Barack Obama talks about this, and he says, hey man, I'm a black man, and when you're a black man, you live this life where you walk into a department store and people follow you to make sure you're not going to steal anything. When you walk near some cars, people lock the doors because they're afraid of you because you're a black man. Walk into an elevator and a woman will clutch her bag a little tighter, things like that. And when you see him and the way he talks about it, it's very clear that I don't understand it. It's very clear that I don't know what's going on. It's very clear that I've never felt that before. And because I've never felt that, whether it's being a black man or a Korean woman or just a woman in America or any minority or person that has discrimination against them, it's hard for me to properly formulate my ideas. And because of this, I try to listen as much as I can when I'm talking about feminism, especially Korean feminism, with my Korean friends who are women, because I need to take in this input to just try to understand it. So the first reason that I probably shouldn't talk about feminism in Korea is because I'm just not a woman. And I'm not even Korean. And that brings me to my second point. The second reason I probably shouldn't talk about feminism in Korea is because I'm not 100% sure how it's unfolding in Korea. A lot of this stuff, a lot of this battle is happening online. It's happening in Korean message boards. It's happening through blogs and websites and videos that are in Korean that I can't understand. Everything I get about Korean feminism is coming through secondhand. I'm getting it from a Korean friend, and that Korean friend is just another filter between me and what's actually going on, which makes it so I can't know 100% what's going on. I am incredibly fascinated. Okay, it is very interesting, but I have to get these secondhand sources about exactly what is happening with feminism in Korea. The third reason why I kind of probably shouldn't talk about feminism in Korea is just basically because I'll get in trouble. This is a really shitty reason because I hate citing this reason because it makes me embarrassed, because my whole thing that I'm trying to do on YouTube is be the Weigukun who speaks straightforward and isn't afraid and is telling it like it is. But the fact of the matter is that the way that information works on the internet now is that there are people who are for you and there are people who are against you. And it's very easy for the people who are against you to tear you down because they just need to find that one situation, that one time where you said something that was reprehensible. Maybe I will say something that maybe I'll say something in a video that is reprehensible. I mean, I'm producing at least one video a week, and I plan to produce even more videos per week, where I'm just spewing out all this content over, huge amounts of content. Now, let's say at one time I say something that is legitimately stupid. Okay, let's say I say women shouldn't be doctors. I 100% don't believe in that statement. Let me be clear, this is just an example. Of course, women should be allowed to be doctors, should have every opportunity to be doctors as much as men. This is just an example. I feel like I'm already going to get that clip used against me someday in the future. But let's say I honestly had that opinion, and in some video I say I don't think women should be doctors. And then later, I change my mind. I say, oh wow, I was stupid. This other person proved me wrong. I read this article and women should be doctors. Forever, I will be marked and known as the man who doesn't want women to be doctors. It doesn't matter if I have 10 apologies about it. It doesn't matter if I make 10 videos saying like, wow, I was so stupid, I was so biased, I was so bigoted, I was so racist, I was so sexist, I was so wrong. I can have 10 videos all saying that. But my detractors will always just call me the guy who didn't want women to be doctors. And I'm trying to be very clear, that's not my opinion at all. I feel like I'm already going to be taken out of context and called an animal for thinking that. But it doesn't have to be, it's probably not going to be something that's so ridiculous, right? That example is ridiculous. No, I hope most people don't believe that women shouldn't be doctors. That's an insane thing. But there might be some opinion of mine that is like less controversial and less on the edge and just kind of like a little wrong. And then later I go, wow, that wasn't a great idea. I mean, now when I meet a fan or somebody who's seen a lot of my videos, they'll say like, hey, you said this. And I'll just say, wow, that was kind of dumb. And I'll admit, and they'll be like, well, but you said that. I'm like, yeah, well, I'm wrong sometimes. And later I can reformulate my ideas and all that stuff. But people who are detractors of mine, people who don't agree with something that I say, and especially if they don't have a logical reason for why they don't believe in something that I said, they're going to use that against me forever. So another reason I'm really afraid of speaking about feminism, one of the reasons I shouldn't speak about feminism, is that it can destroy my whole brand with just one sentence, with one misspoken sentence. Even if I retract it later, even if I'm sorry about it, even if I lead a campaign saying that women should be doctors and I march on the street about it, all of my detractors will just call me the guy who didn't want women to be doctors. And that's one of the things I'm afraid of. Now, those are the three reasons I shouldn't talk about feminism in Korea. Number one, I'm not a woman. Number two, I don't really know how feminism's unfolding in Korea. And number three, I could easily get in big trouble, or I can ruin my YouTube channel, or I can ruin my whole, whatever you want to call it, career of doing this stuff. Those are the three reasons I shouldn't do it. But the reason I should do it is because, number one, I mean, just for my own personal benefit, it's extremely interesting. The way feminism is unfolding in Korea is really, I think, different than the way it was happening in America. In America, it's been happening for at least 50 years, since the 60s. I mean, I think that's when the term feminism was coined, and I believe that was the beginning of feminism as we know it. But Even 100 years before that, there was the women's suffrage movement where women were trying to get the right to vote, and it was women pushing the boundary and, trying to get equal rights with men. So for us, it's been this long, slow trudge, like very difficult, and it's happened in steps and sometimes in leaps and sometimes in very, very, even steps backwards sometimes. But in Korea, it's happening super fast. In Korea, you guys have a model to look at because you've seen what happened in America and in Europe, and you could see like, hey, this is what they did in the 60s. We should do that now. It's only, I don't know how long it's been around in Korea. I want to say 20 or 30 years, maybe since the 80s or something, maybe since the 90s, and probably, it's accelerated a lot in the most recent 5 years, right? And also it's happening on the internet. When it was happening in the 60s in America, we didn't have the internet. We didn't have knowledge and ideas spreading so quickly, and we also didn't have the bitter, the anonymity of the internet also makes people very bitter, makes them fight and angry, and it's turned this whole argument into a very, dog-eat-dog argument, zero-sum game argument, which is, for me, kind of interesting how it's unraveling, which is why I want to speak about it. But also, I should speak about it because I do have the foreigner's point of view on it, kind of able to see it from the outside a little bit. And I feel like one of the only foreigners that's on YouTube or anywhere that will speak directly, speak his mind, how I see it, not go, oh, well, like tone shit down for Korean people, which I despise. I hate seeing foreigners toning things down, going, oh, well, I don't know about feminism. I hope all women have equal rights someday, and they don't want to get into the weeds of it and form thoughts and opinions and say things. So in that way, I kind of have a duty to speak about feminism. And so it's interesting for me, and I kind of have this duty. And also, free speech is really important, and I've got to not be afraid. Like when I don't speak about feminism because I'm afraid, I feel bad. I feel like a wuss. I feel like I'm a scaredy cat, and I feel like that's completely antithetical to me as a person, as my personality, as my characteristics. So for those three reasons, I probably should keep speaking about feminism. Number one, it's just very interesting. It's crazy how it's panning out. Number two, I have maybe a different perspective as a straight-speaking foreigner. And number three, I just feel bad when I'm scared like that to say what's on my mind. But the three big reasons I probably shouldn't speak about feminism are, I'm not a woman, especially I'm not a Korean woman. I might get in big, big trouble. And also, I'm not 100% sure how feminism is panning out in Korea. So if you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you hate this video, give it a thumbs down. If you love me or hate me, hit the subscribe button. Remember, these videos come out every Friday at 7 p.m. So if it's after 7 p.m. on a Friday, you should check out those videos. Also, of course, leave comments. I'm sure this video is going to get a lot of great comments, a lot of not so great comments. It's really fine. Like, you can pick me apart and say anything I'm wrong about. In this video particularly, I'm going to try to read as many comments as I can, even though they're mostly in Korean, because this is kind of important, and I think feminism is a big deal in Korea right now, and people need to talk about it openly, myself included. And so I want you guys to talk about it too in my comments. So leave any comments you want. You can just call me an asshole. That's fine. So yeah, leave comments below. And of course, remember the most important thing of all. Have a super awesome day.
창화 그리고 김유리 덕분에 저는 이런 영상을 만들 수 있습니다.
여러분의 지원 덕분에 이번 영상을 제작할 수 있었습니다.